education. Stay shine. It's very important, not only in a marriage, but in every relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if I may, can I add to what she said?
Chime in.
So-
Sauce it up.
Now, my sister, she said, you know, she learned in a few months. It took me a little longer,
Mhm.
and I'll be vulnerable and say that because I grew up in an environment that was so selfish, and it was just like embedded in me that independency was just this thing.
Oh, Lord. Independence. That there is a topic all by itself. Continue.
So it was that environment where it was about, you know, one for all for one, and you know, just get it for your own and don't worry about no one else, and just do for me, look out for me. So it took me a longer time because I was in that environment for so long, and then being delivered from stubbornness. It had like my baby sister like said, it had a chokehold on me because I was afraid to come out of something that was so comfortable in terms of being independent and self-reliant.
True.
So when I made the conscious decision to decide to relinquish that and depend on God, it became easier. And when I realized, like you say, the benefits of putting others before myself, it was easier for me to not even care about my needs, because the word of God said that he will supply all my needs. And he promised to take care of his own. So when I learned that information and I applied and I accepted that, it kind of became easier to become selfless.
Yes.
I did have moments where I would, you know, teeter-totter. I will be very vulnerable to say that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it was mindful as to why I made the decision to be selfless or put others before us. And it wasn't even about what we could get in return. It was about growth, and it was about seeing the love of God in our actions. That's what it was for me in my experience with that.
Well, Evangelist, you got anything before I chime in?
Well, like to piggyback off what the evangelicals
Put
said.
some cayenne.
Said even looking at it beyond a marriage between husband and wife, but a covenant, a relationship between other people, but first and foremost, ultimately you and God's relationship.
True.
Are you willing to put God's will before yours? And if you are, like you taught us yesterday, which you will learn in future episodes, honoring your word and things of that nature, and being consistent in that, and he's there to help you. And so, yeah, sometimes we say we're willing to put that need before in regards to the relationship to God, but when we look back at our actions, or we look at our actions, it's kind of far away from what you said in terms of your word and the importance of word, like evangelical, trying to mention. And so I would say even importance of doing this, like Sean mentioned, that that's the first sacrifice, one of many actually, I would say, sacrifices that the Lord did for his people, for his creation. And if Christ is our greatest example, we should follow behind that. If he put people he didn't even know in regards to meeting them physically, but he know them because he's omnipresent and stuff like that. And if he could have done that, why can't we? Why can't we do what the kingdom requires us to do by putting others' needs before us? Because like Shauna mentioned, once you do that, it's a reciprocity flow happening. Your needs will be met if you're putting others' needs before yours. And not in a way that you're seeking something from the Lord and like, oh, let me do this. Because you can't deceive the Lord. So that's first and foremost.
Real talk.
But it's just like, okay, you don't be naive to the fact that when you do serve God, there are rewards with it. You will get eternal life. These things will happen, but it has to be a devotion to him. And so I think, really, to answer the question, sometime for me, in terms of putting other people's needs, to be real, to be putting other people's needs before mine. So that's just something I'm learning in my God, aspect of learning in future to come. So, yeah, but I've been learning how to try to apply it to God's relationship and me and God's relationship, because that's what's first important, and that's what holds all of the weight, and that's what will trickle down in the rest of your relationships. So you have to ask yourself, are you putting God's will before yours, before you even put another human being or a human being before yourself? So once you can do that, everything else will be easier. When you put God's will before yours, it'd be very easy to put a human being, before your needs and stuff like that, in my opinion.
Well, that's good. Evangelist say, in our vernacular in the Caribbean, the struggle is real. So a lot of people at this particular time will focus more on their self simply because of what they've been taught culturally, what they've been taught intrinsically, and what they've been self-taught by self-improvement books, or just hanging around an atmosphere that always conducive of self. So to deny yourself becomes difficult because you've known that for so many years, and it's bruised and edged in the psychological part of your edema and your psyche. So now it's time to unlearn 10, 20, 30 years of self.
Yes.
How do you do that when you trying to say yes to God, but you still lukewarm, and you still want to have your stuff together, you still want this, and you still desire that. It took me years to get here in terms of denial of self, because I've learned it and I've applied it from I was 17 years old. Hint, hint, I'm gonna be 46 in March. So I've applied this flow to my life for so long. It's like the way I breathe. And so to be able to move in a selfless realm, you have to first start off with small projects, small steps. It can't be big, because that is going to be something that Lucifer had a hold on you for so many years. And so what you have to understand scripturally, and we always talk about this, is that you have to first bind the strong man. So when the thief comes, he studies you. There is no thief that just walk in the bank and say, give me the money.
Right.
You would even on a movie, and it's not so far-fetched, you would always see them casing out the joint.
Right.
They would be watching from afar. They would have someone looking at the security guard. So it's the same thing in the realm of the spirit from the dark side. They will watch you for a time and times and a season to find the weakness in your armor, to bring you back to a relative place that you have to think about yourself, especially when, Evangelist Shauna offend me, you know what? That's it. I just want to be by myself. So you almost take that Grinch attitude, and Christmas coming up. So you almost want to take that Grinch attitude. I want to be by myself because I ain't going to offend myself. But technically, you already offending yourself.
Right.
Because you allowing stubbornness to move you to a place, and that spirit of behemoth ain't going to talk to you, it's going to take you.
Right.
Can I chime in here? Because,
go ahead.
It's like you said, you've been selfish for so long and you don't even know it. Because sometimes I have to go to Bishop and say, was I selfish in that moment? Or if I'm thinking something, I'll be like, is this a selfish thought? Because you've been doing it so long, you don't even recognize it sometimes.
Right.
And it's good when you have somebody there as a guide who's there to teach you. When you falter, he's there to say, you're faltering, you need to work on things and pick it up. So it's hard to break habits, but it can be done.
Yes, definitely.
It takes patience and it takes practice and application.
Right.
Like Bishop said.
And even holding yourself accountable too.
Yes, and that's very important. Being accountable. And that's the scapegoat mentality. It needs to stop. And it's a Black people Caribbean thing.
Yeah, it is.
Lack of accountability or poor accountability. Let me say that, because I don't want to say lack. Lack means none at all. Let me say
it means deficient,
poor.
but but it's a cultural thing. I think for all of us who was in that environment, it's cultural. Like, for females, you don't need a man. We're still on marriage and family, by the way.
Yes.
So
keep you centered.
So you don't need a man. You can do it all by yourself. And so that is the flow of the first part of the demonic realm, saying, okay, yeah, we got that in her embedded, because this this taught us from 7, 8,
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
9.
Independence.
So we want to definitely invite everybody who was in that type of culture to email us.
Yeah.
Plug in that email again, Evangelist Shay.
Education Station 278@gmail.com.
All right, then. Woo! There you go. So in that regard, we understand if you're still there. We understand. That's why I said the struggle is real.
Yeah. it is.
We understand. So we're here to navigate you, and this panel here to guide you. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to put you down.
Yeah.
We're not gonna call your name. Anyone on this panel at any given day, led by the Lord, will email you back.
Yes.
So we know how it is when you want to transition from how do I get to the place where, and we love to talk about this, the bless you place. How do I get to that place? The first thing to transition to that place is to understand that blessed means to be happy,
Yes, definitely.
not to have material gain.
Yes.
And happiness scientifically,
Yes.
and it is proven from study, because I am certified in the study exactly in the science of happiness. So that is proven that being selfless gives you a gratification of gratefulness and appreciation. And if you don't believe me, go on the Greater Good Science Center and Google it.
I have a question,
Mhm.
and it's when you mention, the feminism or the modern day woman. Oh, you don't need a man. Be
No.
independent.
Woo!
And
Going down the rabbit hole, are we?
yes,
Down the
we
rabbit
are. And
We
then-
ready?
Incoming emails.
We welcome them.
You got mail.
my question
Mhm.
is how important are the different roles individuals play in a family? Because you need a man
Mhm.
to be a part of a family.
True.
So why do we say, oh, you don't need a man when each role is important? So can you dive deeper into why the statement, oh, you don't need a man, be independent, it's false?
True. So everybody agree with that? Y'all want to chime in? Y'all want to say anything?
Before we go
Oh.
into that question,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to what you were saying before, in terms of like it was said, it's something that you've known for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a thing me and my sister Sundays discuss in regards to why it can be so hard. Yes, it's something like Shona said. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient to the process and everything like that. But also, you have to understand that you're in your own way, because, like it was mentioned from my sister in a previous sermon, you can check that out on IFM, Facebook, on all platforms, YouTube, TikTok, things of that nature, where she talks about yes,
And the website as well, ifm.ca.
Yeah.
Yes.
yes. What I lost train of thought.
That's all right. Keep going.
In your own
But
way.
yeah, you're in your own. Thank you. In your own way, in regards to saying life with God is easy.
Yes.
It's only difficult when you are there in that crossroads of.
Selfishness.
It's all about you. Back to
Yes,
selfishness.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right, and so you have to overcome that, because we're studying Revelation 12.
Hello.
At the moment, and it's talking about what you're overcame by the blood.
Three
You're overcome by your
things.
testimony.
Watch it.
And you're overcome by dying to self.
Hello,
basically.
my
It's-
Coulter. Mhm.
And so once you believe and have faith and you devote yourself to that and you actually apply it to life, you'll be fine. Now, because challenges will always be there.
Mhm.
Yes.
Persecution will always be there. Trials and
Real.
tribulations.
Yes.
Just how the kingdom of heaven have an agenda, so does the kingdom of darkness.
Yes.
And so it's up to you to stick to your assignment, because they have their assignment always.
Mhm.
And so it's just about dedicating yourself to selflessness, like Dad said.
Mhm.
Yes, Dad said.
Mhm.
Our dad.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Dad said, in terms of people get gratification from being selfless, and they find joy in that. They find happiness in that. And so everyone wins at the end of the day in regards to needs being met. And, because it's kind of feeling based, but we know God is not a God of feelings.
No, he's not. Good.
But at the same time, like that still comes from it. Like, you help a person on the street, right, who needs food. You're gonna get some sort of gratification from that, whether you find joy of doing God's will because He told you or led you to do that. Like, you still get some sort of human emotion, but at the same time spiritual gratification because you did what God did in regards to obedience. But yes, that's it.
Okay.
Before we get to the feminism.
Sunday, you want jam on it?
I do, but I think I'm gonna take it from like a sharing perspective in terms of my experience in terms of independency and not needing a man. Right?
Sharing is caring, go ahead.
So I'm gonna share the lies
good.
that were embedded
The opposite side
into my psyche.
Good, we need to hear that. That is
so
very good.
Where it was just so that whole, I didn't even know as a child the whole idea or concept of femininity or feminism. Thank you. Feminism and the whole agenda behind it.
Of course.
An agenda.
Yes, it is.
I said what I said.
Hello.
And so,
I apologize.
not understanding that it was actually destroying something that was already there before I was born. The whole idea of submitting to leadership, the leadership of a man. And so because there was so many women in leadership roles that I was exposed to, whether it was teachers, pastors, you know, whomever we saw, any figure that had a leadership position was a female. And so we always thought about anything you can do, I can do better nonsense. And so when it came to the male figure, it was more so of a level of not trusting the man because it was embedded again. You don't need one.
That's correct.
I can do bad all by myself.
Married to the J!
To add, are you done, sister?
You can chime in.
Sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Because when my training started with Bishop and he mentioned the word submit, oh my God. I blew the roof. When it was like, submit to a man. It made me so angry. We would argue for hours on that topic. But then from studying and actually learning the definition of submission, it changed my perception because the word submit, it's always seemed, oh, you have to submit to someone. It seems so negative. And I had to change the way I think about the word submission and understand that I even have to submit to God. And if I can't submit at all to people I know, how am I going to submit to God though? And a being I've never met. And that was before I even thought about a husband, because at that point in my life, I didn't even want a husband. And I had made up my mind, okay, I'm good by myself.
Right.
I've been there, done that, and I'm not impressed.
True.
And that's where I was in that mindset. And when God intervened in my life, thank you.
Hello.
And I started to learn that submission is a good thing.
It is.
It changed my life.
It is.
So, Bishop, you can do the definition.
Sure. And then we get to the question, no worries. But I think that the concept here is, and the whole view of it from a cultural perspective, Caribbean wise, it's because the family structure in our countries and even in this country where God have us now is to remove the male, the foundation, the houseborn out of the home. So he would be gone and the woman would take on this whole female male role. So they take on the dichotomy that, I just a strong and you have to be the strong black female. And so there was a clip in Tyler Perry movie with Michael Jai White where he said, you're so angry that you don't even know when you've won. Where a woman wins an argument and still so pent up with anger that they don't even know that the argument was already completed.
Right.
And so the problem there is that's the reason why Lucifer always tackles submission. And it's because submission has been beaten down into a female in our ethnicity as controlling. But submission only means to compromise.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It only means both parties sit down and compromise.
Yes.
So when you see it in that particular realm, you're able to meet as adults and learn to compromise.
Yes.
So today, if we ain't eating Chinese, no biggie, we can eat KFC. It's a compromise.
Exactly.
But we don't have to hold on. Well, I want chicken. I want saswa. I want chicken. And we arguing. And as simple as that sound, that destroys a marriage. One person on the couch because of chicken, and the next person in the room because of saswa. So and no one trying to compromise and say,
Right.
you know what, maybe we could eat rice and saswa with the chicken.
Right.
True.
So-
That's what's called good compromise.
But
Some
that's what I'm
fried
saying.
chicken with some
Exactly.
good gravy.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Everybody wins.
Everybody has
Right.
And so when you think about that, with God is the same concept.
Yeah.
In the book of Revelation, like Evangelist Shay said, you already win.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no need to hold hard for a submission because
Yeah.
you didn't compromise.
Yeah.
You didn't come in agreement with God.
Yes.
So there's no other argument. It's the
Hallelujah.
same thing in the family infrastructure.
Yeah.
And to get to the question, the rules are very important because a woman was never created to keep a house,
Say it again.
to glue it together, to keep it formulated. So the woman now is in the man role. That's why we have so much things lean into the all community thing that everybody is trying to misappropriate their assignments and they
Yeah.
don't understand their real function
Yeah.
and what they was created to do. And Lucifer having a party because everybody going after everybody else's role instead of doing what they was called and purposed to do.
Right.
So here it is now. I'm a female and I want to be a preacher. Okay. Well, Paul said, listen, just have a covering. That don't mean that you preach on your own. That means you connected to someone
Right.
that can help you matriculate and understand spiritual and practical things. But the problem is, no, I can do that by myself. So what you do now is you get so full of yourself, you jazzy your house and the church. You and that's where Satan trying to take females now to get them to control everything, even the man. And I can tell you now, when you inside that role of Jezebel, a man gonna respond to you and do everything else but what you ask him to do. Because you trying to be the man. A man ain't gonna be a man if you trying to be the man.
Hello.
So to understand your role, you have to first have your identity crisis solved.
Yes.
You struggling with an identity because you trying to recognize if you have power or not.
Yeah.
When you misappropriating your power because a queen, oh God, a queen have a lot of power. She just
Yes.
ain't using it correct. Y'all want to chime in? Go ahead, Evangelicals. Go ahead.
Because I still want you to talk about like the role of the man and why the man is needed and the role of the woman. Like be specific. Is
Okay,
that possible?
but that's fine. I can be specific if y'all want to say anything but the last statement.
No, I guess.
Well,
Mhm.
in terms of this, for our viewers' sake,
Mhm.
there will be more explanation and more deep dives in regards to the topics because it's so much to talk about and understand and learn and unlearn, and so stay tuned.
Mhm.
And when you talk about the rules, talk about how each role contributes to the family, and that's the reason why the family will be a strong unit.
Well, for the purpose of time.
Yeah.
So we're gonna elaborate briefly, like Evangelist said, just keep tuning in. We'll probably continue as we go along.
Yeah.
But the role of the husband means houseborn. And I'm sure everybody listened to Dr. Miles, heard a little bit of his in-depth teaching. But in terms of revelation, God took me there a little while to understand, and it's the man that's the glue, and marriage is always about the man. And a lot of people, these three ladies debated with that for a long time until they studied it. When God called a man, he calls the man to bring everything and keep it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
When he adds a woman, he adds the woman to bring the design, the creativity, the proclivity, and the whole birthing out of with the vision that
Yes.
he gave to the man.
Yes.
And I think the role shifted because everybody losing vision. Everybody losing sight of God. Everybody losing sight of purpose. Everybody losing sight of reasons why they were put together. And when they lose that focal point, they lose the essence and the foundation of how the family was built.
Yes, true. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
that.
And so, would you say, in regards to, because people are outside of their roles, why you have the whole masculine woman mantra or a feminine man, even though that's kind of like an oxymoron, but it's
True.
it's possible to be because everyone
Yes,
is
it is.
out of their role in regards to God ordained order.
Yeah,
and
you are.
so,
Yes,
Like-
I do believe that, Evangelist. Say, but elaborate. Go ahead, continue.
because I'm pretty sure the evangelicals or bishop have met one point in time a feminine man, and what I mean by that is he's unsure of himself as a man. It's not saying you go into the gym, you pumping weights, and you're a manly man or anything like that, but knowing your order, knowing your role and your purpose and the dominion you have, and two, as well as the submit word. When I first heard it, it was in a community called Red Pill, and it was very slave-like. Like, your husband said, lay down on the bed, you better lay down on that bed. And you better cook him his food. And if he wake you up 3 o'clock in the morning, you're waking up 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was just, the talking points was very unrealistic. It was very unrealistic. But in regards to biblically speaking, like Dad said, in terms of you're the helpmate, and it is about the man, because with Adam was already established. It wasn't really like a huge need for Eve,
Exactly.
but Eve still was created because God saw Adam's loneliness within that garden.
Yes.
But he still could have done without it. It's possible in another sequel that could have been possible, but in regards to the Bible, Eve, that was to help him, because Adam already to name all of the animals. He already had everything going on in terms of the groundwork and stuff like that, and cultivating the ground. Eve was there to just Eve was there to help that purpose.
Yes.
Whether it was to pick the berries or or help I don't know, with the child when it comes to bearing with the animals, she was there to just help him. And so even taking that into aspect when it comes to the female role of what you're supposed to do, and like Dad mentioned, Jezebel, you want to be in control of things. This is my man. This is my house. This is my children.
My rules.
My rules.
My way or the highway.
When it's actually God's child, God's
exactly
rules, God's that, and you just happen to be the beneficiary of these things.
Amen.
Good.
So,
Well, we on our last words. So, in that regard, stay tuned for season 2, which should be up next week. Right now, I to add to what you're saying, Evangelist, we lost the understanding of the real authority.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think once we add that to Education Station, people will really, really get the paradigm of where God's trying to take them. And so, the roles have been meshed. And when you say a feminine man, let me just articulate that for people. That's the guy that can't fix nothing. That's the guy who have to call contractors to fix everything. That's the guy who really was never brought up with handyman mentality.
Because a metrosexual. Then.
Yeah, well, that's what we call him. Someone who get the nice pedicure or get the nice stuff, but he make it. He had the white collar job, but he could hire people. But then there comes a time when he wants to be Mr. Fix-It, and so in that regard, that's what some women will look for. Like, he's not a man, but in the same time, he was created with a seed and a possibility of representing God as your priest. So you still can't demote him because he can't fix a dishwasher, or he can't tune up a car, or he don't have the idea how to change brakes. That's why you pay a serviceman. But at the same time, if he's still keeping your house, he still deserves the honor, because there's a need for a man and needs for women that are absolute. And we'll talk about that later on. But y'all chime in.
I'm just going to finish. I just want to.
Okay. Not a problem.
You guys have anything to chime in before I talk?
No, I think we covered all of my questions. George touched on every question that I have.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, but because this topic is so wide, I'm really hoping we can expand on it next.
We will.
Yeah.
Of course, we sure will. We try to.
Definitely. This is another continuation, and I'm looking forward to it. And to shameless plug, there is a conference going on, the women's conference that we have, our second annual conference.
Plug it in.
And the theme for this year is Teach Us Your Way, O Lord.
Yes.
And it isn't just for women. It's for the body of Christ. So it's no male specific, no female specific. It's about the ways of God that we're seeking to be taught of.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you so much for watching Education Station. This is our first episode, and I will say we meet the expectation of the excitement and just the flow of the conversation via the Spirit. Stay tuned for episode 2 next week, and we can't wait to hear all of you guys' questions, and thank you.
All right. Much love.